Hi everybody, welcome back. In this video I'm going to be talking about how to make a simple car controller. A viewer wanted to see this, so let's just get started. Now this vehicle right here, I got it from the Unity asset store. It is called Hot Rod and it's by Mario. I'm not going to say his last name, I don't want to butcher it, but I'll leave a link down below. And as you can see, it's just 13.6 megabytes and it supports 5.21 or higher on the Unity versions. So let's just get started. Now on previous videos, I did show you how to add wheel colliders and how to connect that. So I will leave a link probably up above so you guys can check that out, how to add these wheel colliders. But pretty much what I did is I just duplicated this. So what I did is just duplicate my wheels. I got all the wheels and I erased all these components, and then I just renamed these to, as you can see right here, wheel colliders, and I just kept it like this. And that was just an easier way of me doing this. So now I could just add a component, put wheel collider, and then it adds it for me. So if I go here and I turn on gizmos, you can see the wheel collider is a little below, but you could just adjust it depending on what vehicle you have. You could just adjust all that, and then once you have all that set up, should be good to go. I don't think I changed anything else, so let's just get started. So we're gonna add a script. It looks like I was already doing it, so let me just remove this, and we're just gonna put simple car controller script, but you guys could name this anything you want. I'm just naming it like this because, as you've seen, I had a couple other scripts already like this, so, or with the same name. So I'm just gonna create an ad, and I'm gonna add it to the container of the whole car. So this would just be the car container, and then I'm gonna open this up in Visual Studios, and we could start on the code. Now I didn't even double check to see if my wheel colliders were set properly, so I'm probably gonna do that first. I'm just gonna hit play real quick, make sure everything is set up properly. So everything looks like it's set properly, nothing's jumping around. Another thing I forgot to mention, I think in my previous video, is that you should add a box collider to your body of your car, but make sure that it is not clipping the floor. So just keep it a little above your body. Okay, so now the first thing I'm gonna do is just erase anything that I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna need. So I'm just gonna delete all that. I'm gonna delete this, and I'm not gonna need this. I'm gonna put void fixed update because I know I will need that later on. And then I'm just gonna make a private float for our horizontal input and for our vertical input. So a float, if you guys don't know, is just a decimal point, and our horizontal and vertical inputs usually go from -1 to 1 and anywhere in between. So that's why we're going to use a float. And then we're going to do a private bool or boolean, which is just something that's true or false. And we're going to name it is breaking. So this is going to be checked every time we press a key. We're gonna set is breaking to true. That way we know that we should be breaking. And we're just gonna have serialized fields. Serialized fields make a private data type visible in the inspector. So this variable or whatever will be visible in the inspector. These right here won't, because it is just private and it does not have the serialized field in the front. But this one will be shown in the inspector, and I do not want another script to access it. That's why it's private. So I'm just going to keep on going, and I'm going to put front wheel collider. This is supposed to be a wheel collider, and then it's a front wheel collider. That's going to be the name of the variable. And then we're just going to duplicate this, and we're going to name it back wheel collider. This one's actually back left, front right, and then back right. So after that, what we're going to start doing is writing some of this code in. What we're first going to do is we're going to put in the fixed update, we're going to have horizontal input be equal to input dot get axis, and then it's going to be the horizontal axis. So just make sure you spell this exactly like this so there's no errors. And then we're going to do the same thing for the vertical, and just spell this exactly like this, vertical. Now the reason we're doing this is that if I go back into the Unity editor and I go to edit, I could go to project settings, and then right here in the input manager, we have these axes, which have horizontal, vertical, and then there's all these other stuff that you can use as well. So that's why you got to make sure you spelled this exactly like it. So I could copy it from here, go over here and paste it. And that way there's no errors. And then we could do something for is breaking. Is breaking, we could just put is breaking equals input, get key, and then we could put key code dot, and then this one you could put any button you want. So as you can see, there's all the buttons right here on your keyboard. So I'm gonna put space, and that's pretty much it. Now after that, we're gonna put front left wheel collider dot motor torque equals horizontal input multiplied by motor force, and we don't have a motor force, so we're just gonna make a serialized field right here. It's gonna be float, and we're gonna make motor force. Now if anybody's confused of why we got this wheel collider variable, let me just show you. It's because we're getting the references of that component, the wheel collider. So this is just getting a reference for each component. So we want a reference for the front one, the back, all that. So we're just going to keep going, and we're also going to add one for the front right. So what I could do is just copy all this, paste it down here, and then just change this part to right. So then after that, what we can do is we're going to apply the brakes now. So we're going to have private float up here, and it's just going to be called current brake force, and then we're going to actually have one right here in the serialized field called private float, and this is going to be brake force. And as you can see, I have it in the same line, but I could also just make another serialized field, the private flow, and then just have this down here, and it all works the same. But I think it's a little more neat if I keep it all in the same line, so that's what I'm gonna do. But you guys could do it how you guys want. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add brakes by putting brake force or current brake force equals is braking. So if is braking is true, then we're gonna apply the current brake force. We're gonna apply this brake force that we set up in the inspector. We're gonna apply it. If not, we're just gonna have it equal 0. So let me go through this line once more. So if is braking equals true, then current brake force, so this one is gonna equal brake force if it's true. If is braking is false, it's gonna equal 0. So hopefully that makes some sense. If not, I could also type it like this. Is braking, so if is braking equals true, then current brake force equals brake force, else current brake force equals 0. So these two lines are pretty much the same thing. I'll leave it like this just so it could be easier to read. And then we'll just keep on going from here. So after all that, we're also going to check if it is braking. We're going to apply brake force. So we're going to add a separate function down here called apply brake force. And then we'll just get all of these colliders. So front left wheel dot brake torque equals current brake force. And then we'll just copy this and add that for each one. So front back left, front right, and then back right. And then we're also gonna do the steering. Okay, so for steering, what we're gonna do is to keep this more simple and more clean. We're just gonna put right here void handle steering. But you can name this anything you want. You could also just put steering, put handle steering. And we're gonna need some more variables. We're gonna need one for the current angle, so we could put current steer angle, and then we're gonna also have this one in the inspector so we could see it and adjust it. And we're gonna put steer, actually we'll put max steer angle, so that way we don't go past that. And then we're gonna go over here, and then we're gonna get the front left, and then we're gonna put dot steer angle equals, and then we'll put current steer angle, and then we'll multiply that by horizontal. Actually, this one we're gonna put max steer angle, so we're gonna times that by horizontal input. Then we're gonna do also, before that, we're gonna put steer angle, because we got a current steer angle equals max steer angle multiplied by horizontal input. And that way we don't have to type this all the time. We'll just type current steer angle, and then we'll duplicate this, and we'll make this for the right. So front right collider is now set like that too. And then we also have to do is update the wheels. So just to keep this neat, I guess we could continue. Update wheels. Now for the update wheels, what we got to do is we're going to make a separate function that's going to help us update the wheels. So we're going to put update single wheel. It's going to have 2 parameters. So this is something new that I haven't talked about in this channel, but you can have a function that has parameters or arguments. So our arguments are going to be, it's going to have a wheel collider in this function for it to work. It's just going to be our wheel colliders. And then it's going to have a transform, and it's going to be the wheels transform. So now wheel collider dot get world pose. So it's get world position. And then for that, it's going to have a now pose. And now, you know what, to make this easier, let's just start over here. We're going to have a vector 3. Vector 3. We're just going to name this position. And then a quaternion. And we're just going to name this rotation. And then we're going to have this set up here, just like that. But we have to have out. And now with that all set up, we could actually put wheel transform dot position equals pose, and wheel transform dot rotation equals row. And now we could come up here and update our wheels by saying update single wheel, and then we just have to put which wheel or which collider and then which wheel. So for that, we're gonna have to add also the wheel transforms up top onto the variables. So we're gonna also have to make variables for the transforms. So what we could just do is just copy all this, and instead we'll just make this into transforms. So copy it, paste it, paste. And then we don't need collider part, so we'll just erase this part. And then you could also put transform at the end of this if you want, or a T or something, just so you could know that it's transform. But I'm gonna keep it like that, and I'll just put front left wheel. And then update single wheel. You know what, I'll just copy this again. As a programmer, you do a lot of copy and pasting. At least I find I do. So now we just got to put last one back right. So just make sure everything looks right. And that should update your wheels. Now if I'm correct, we should be all done. So I know this is not as simple as people might think, but this is the simplest way I could think of. So hopefully this was simple for you guys. But I will upload this to my website and you guys could see it. And I'll try to add comments before I do upload this. That way it's a little more understandable. But it's not too bad. Right here, you know, you can see we're applying brakes. Right here, we're adding force, so we're actually going forward, back, depending on what buttons we're pressing. And we're doing that for the left and the right, so it will pull the whole car with it. Now you could also have this, instead of front wheel drive, you could have it back wheel drive by just changing this to back. In the script, I might have that as a boolean where you could check if you want it front wheel or back wheel. That way you could pick between the both, and then you just apply brake to all the wheels. And then you handle steering, you just add a steering. You change the steering input depending on, you know, what button you're pressing, either left or right or A and D. And then you just update all the wheels by updating a single wheel at a time. And by that, you just get the wheel collider and the wheel transform. And then you just get the position and the rotation. And the way you do that is by getting the wheel colliders, world position and rotation, and then you just set it to the transform. So hopefully that makes sense. And now the easy part, I think, or the more simple part, we just gotta hook everything up, which could be a pain sometimes, but it shouldn't be too bad. And hopefully the video wasn't as long. So let's see if we go to our car controller. Now we have all these. We're gonna lock this up real quick. And to set up the force, or actually let's just set up everything real quick. So we're gonna add our wheels and wheel colliders. So we'll spread this up a bit. So these are the colliders on top. You could also see right here it says wheel collider. That's what it's requiring. So we're gonna put front left, wheel colliders, or and then we're gonna put back. So rear, so left, rear, front, right, and then rear, right. And then we're gonna go for the wheels. So rear, right, so back, right, front, right, left, rear, front, left. And then we're gonna add the motive force. The motive force, we're gonna probably add just 1,000 just to test it real quick. And then we'll just add 3,000 on the brakes. And then the steer angle, for the steer angle, we'll just put something like 30. And then we'll hit play and see what happens. So now if I press the keyboard, you can see that it's actually driving. Now I think I got this flip. Okay, so I did make an error. Where is it at? This right here. It should be vertical input. Sorry for all those guys, for everybody that was following along. This should be vertical input because I'm going up and down. This should be, yeah, horizontal input. Yeah, there you go. Now it should work. Did not catch it. Sorry, guys. So now if I hit play, and I go forward. Okay, so what I ended up doing, I ended up putting a minus on this because it was going the opposite way. So let me see if this works now. Okay, so now it's going correctly. See, I could drive. Now I could also try to turn. So let me see. So I found my mistake. The other mistake I had is that even though I have these functions here, I do not call these functions because it's not called on a fixed update. So of course, another mistake, my bad guys. So all you gotta do is just type in your function names, so all the function names that you have. So if you name these differently, just type all the ones you have down here. So handle braking, handle steering. The only one you don't have to do is update single wheel, but do update wheels. And I'll try to make this a little more neat. So like for example, right here, if braking, so right here, you could push control period and it will add this extract method, and then you could push enter, and then it will turn it into a method for you down here. So you can rename this method to, let's say, apply force or apply motor force. So there you could do that. You could also do like for right here, if it's braking, so you could put like that. Now is braking, you could just control dot, enter, check if braking. Now you can name these anything you want. You could also do this one, put check for input, and that way they're all called, even though they're not all in the fixed update. All these lines of code are called, you know, in the update. Same thing like with this one. This one gets called in this function because it is, you know, typed in right here. So now, unless I messed up on something else, everything should work and it should run fine. So let's just hit play. So now you can see the wheels being updated. If I could see they rotate perfectly, I could turn, I can move my car, and everything works just fine. Now as you can see, my car does kind of like flip around. Now that's because I adjusted the box collider earlier. I thought that might have been the problem, but let me just bring this down. Set this to right, and then that so it could be orthographic view. Let me just drag this all the way down and hit play. Now if I go, let me just drag this. Now I can turn around. As you can see, it does need some work still. So the motor force, I'm going to change motor force just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to keep it like that, but what I am going to change is over here on the wheel colliders. So if we go to the wheel colliders, I'm going to change the spring and the damper to 90,000 and 9,000. So let's just go to the collider so you guys can see. Let's select all of them. I'm going to hit this to 90,000 and this one to 9,000. And then I'm going to hit play. But you could also change all these, you know, as needed. So as you can see, you get sideways friction, forward friction. The reason I'm colliding with that is because of my box collider. As you can see, I could drive, you know, I could brake, and I could do all that sort of neat stuff. Now, let's say I wanted to go over all these things. What I could do is I could just, like I had it earlier, do maybe somewhere around here, just so it could get over those surfaces. So if I go over here now, as you can see, I could go over the surface now just fine. Now I might have some troubles like on these bigger hills. It still goes just fine, but it's easier to flip. So yeah, that's what you could do with the box collider. Now the best thing would be is to add your terrain and then check what kind of collider you would need. You would probably want to adjust this, make it smaller, just depending on what you need. Like if you're doing, let's say, a racing game, this would probably be just fine. But now let's say if you're doing like some kind of motorcycle game, jumping off these ramps, you would definitely have to adjust these so you wouldn't be falling all the time or out of script or something. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Sorry for making it so long. I guess there's really no way to make a simple car controller, but as you can see, this wasn't that bad. All we did was get references to the wheels and to the colliders. We added a motor force, a brake force, and a steering angle, and then we checked for our horizontal input, our vertical input, and then, you know, checked what our current brake force is, our steering force is, and then just checked if we were braking by pressing space or not. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm not gonna make this video longer than it needs to be. So if you guys learned something, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Also, if you want to see more videos like this, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon as well if you want to get notified as soon as I post these videos. Once again, thank you.